All right, I already have a little bit of work done. I'm just going to continue from where I left off. So right now I'm adding a paint layer. And by adding a paint layer, this allows me to paint and change my paintbrush color and continue to paint onto the item. This is essential if you want to paint specific colors onto your model. So as you see there, you know, the color I paint on there was white. Now I'm changing my color to paint on a darker value now to mimic the darker values of the gums. You can see on the lower part of the jaw there, it gets into darker values there, so I'm going to paint those in. Now I've just adjusted my brush settings there, and now those are done. Now I'm going to start to paint in those darker values. Now I've fast forwarded a little bit. A lot of the dark values are already painted in, and I've also turned on the mirror modifier, uh, so I can work a little more efficiently. And now I am selecting from my reference image the lighter values, and I'm painting those in because I like to work dark to light. So now dark is done. Now I'm working on the lighter regions, painting those in. Uh, as you can see, the upper part of the jaw is a little bit has more lighter values in it, so I'm filling in those lighter values inside the gums there. Painting those in, just continuing. All right, now I fast forward it again. Now I'm going to add a new paint layer. I'm going to name it Red Veins. You see the lower part of the gums there. They have veins. So now I'm painting in those veins inside the masking layer of the paint layer. I'm changing the color now. Uh, Now I'm going to adjust the height value just a little bit. Now I have fast forwarded the video. I can't actually paint this fast. I'm just uh, painting in a lot of the veins that you can kind of see in the lower part of the gums there. I'm going to adjust them later on. They're a little too, they stand out a little too much now, but I'll adjust them later. So now just continuing to paint in those veins. Move to the top. Doesn't have as much as the bottom, so just going to paint a few. Just wrapping up. Get a look at the model, move the light around. Yes, you can move the light by holding shift right click. That's how you pan and move the light around. So now I'm going to get into filters. Filters are very similar to filters in Photoshop. You can add blurs, you can add sharpens. Click add filter. Uh, filter add as a blur because the veins are a little too strong, so that's a little too much. Going to turn it down a little bit. Just looking up almost there. I think I'm going to punch in 0.15. Wrap that one up. I'm going to get into subsurface scattering on the gums. As you see there, the shadows kind of go away a little bit. Within the viewport, you can preview subsurface scattering. Uh, it's a fast preview, so it's not completely accurate. But once I get into iRay, which is a plugin, um, a render plugin inside Substance, you can get a much more realistic result. Stay tuned for that. So now I've added a new layer, a new paint layer, and I've put it inside a folder. I'm going to call it Teeth. Now that I've done that, I'm going to right click and add a black mask. And now I'm going to select which items, which polygons I want to be within that black mask. And the gums will not be. That's why now what I'm doing is only going to be affecting the teeth. So I added another black mask on my new uh, bump layer. And I've added I'm going to add a fill to that mask layer. And I'm going to add a texture to that fill layer. As you can see, the texture is following the UVs, and the UVs are a little irregular. So I'm going to have to change that. I'm going to change that to triplanar, which projects the texture from a cube from the 3D viewport. So now rotate that 90 degrees. Now I have the lines the way I want them. A similar pattern to how the lines are on the reference tooth there. Now I'm going to adjust my noise pattern a little bit. Just to get it the way I want it. Once again, it's red only just for seeing how it looks. Now I'm going to turn off my color channel. After that, I'm going to turn off my roughness, my metal, and my scatter because I won't need those on this layer. Turn up my height. It's a little too harsh now, but that'll be adjusted in a moment with a filter. So the first filter I'm going to add is a warp. Add some nice irregularities to the teeth. All right, they're looking pretty good now. So now I'm going to add one more filter. And that filter will be a blur. All right, awesome. Now I'm going to move on to, I've created a new layer and I'm going to add subsurface scattering to this layer. And it's looking pretty good there. Let's move the light around just to see how it affects the model. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to get into smart materials. And smart materials is just a way of all that hard work you've done to build those materials. Well, now you can create a smart material from that. And give it a second. 1, 2, 3. All right, now it's added to my smart materials menu. And now what to do there, if I select the material there, delete it, go down to my smart materials, drag and drop. Okay, put it at the top of the layer stack. Now I'm going to drag to the bottom of the layer stack because as you can see, the teeth are masked out from the gums. The layering is just like Photoshop layers. And lastly, smart materials. They can be, since they're saved down to the shelf, they can be used for other projects. So you don't have to keep remaking materials. You can simply create the material, then save it to a smart material, and reuse it on any projects you see fit, or you can share your smart materials. Okay, I'm going to go up to File and Export Textures. Now, as you can see, this opens up my Export Textures menu. As you can see right here, I have my 3 materials. Now, for each individual material, I can choose which texture resolution I want to export to. I have 128 all the way up to 8K, depending upon my use case and how much resolution I need. Next thing I have is the image format I want to export to. I can also choose the bit depth for that image format. Next thing I have is the config file. This basically, it'll convert the textures upon export for whichever render package or program you choose. They have examples of Unity, Redshift, Corona, CryEngine, Dota, V-Ray, Keyshot, or non-PBR workflows. Now I can go up to the configure file, and the configure file shows all those render presets. But what I can do here is I can edit those render presets as I see fit. Let's say I want to change uh, the naming convention of how they're exported. Let's say I want to duplicate one. I can duplicate one and change its parameters. I can also create my own. Let's say I need an emissive map. I can just hit the plus button there and create my own uh, config file as I see fit. And as we come back to the menu here, that's basically all you need to know to export your textures. And the really awesome thing about this tool is, let's say you're using a render package and down the line you want to use another render package. You're not going to lose all that work you've done of building material libraries, because since it's all stored in Substance Painter, you can export to any new package you choose to change to, and it keeps things nice and flexible. And that's exporting from Substance Painter. All right, I'm gonna move my mouse to the top of the screen, click the camera button. After doing that, that queues up iRay. iRay is a render plugin that is inside Substance Painter. It allows you to preview your model and not have to export your textures and apply them and set up a render scene in your 3D package. That's already ready to go with iRay and Substance Painter. And the way Substance Painter lights its model, it uses an HDR, which you can see in the viewport. It's also visible in iRay. And you can also pan and move the light around just how you can in the Substance viewport. You can also navigate within iRay while it's rendering. So basically, this is essential to get realistic results of your materials, and so you don't have to go to your 3D package. This is really important on this model because it has subsurface scattering on a lot of its materials, and it saves me a lot of time firing up iRay and previewing the subsurface scattering here. So as you can see on the edges of the teeth there, you can see the subsurface scattering working. And as you can see in the center of the teeth, I put a mask there so there will be less subsurface scattering there. Probably add a filter to that mask so it'll have a much smoother transition. But this is iRay showing you how you can preview your materials and see how they actually look